Welcome to our exploration of the practices to which the United Methodist Church is committed as we live into our new identity, a new way for a new day. In the past 2 weeks, we've explored the first practice of futuring. Simply said, returning to the good old days is not the new way for the United Methodist Church. And then we explored the practice of balancing, and the implication of that is that extremism is not the chosen way for United Methodist. For if a person is uncomfortable with the practices of futuring and balancing, they will be uneasy with the new way for a new day as United Methodist. Now, this week we add a third practice, and that is reasoning. This is a great illustration of what happens when the suffix ing is added to a noun. Reason, the ability to think, is an important subject. But for United Methodists, it is more than a subject to be studied. It is an important practice in all matters of faith. Reasoning is an important practice in all matters of faith. Now, the foundation of this practice is found in the life and teachings of Jesus. Jesus was raised in a faith community in which there were 10 commandments, many rules and regulations to be obeyed. But this living by the law did not require or invite thinking on the part of the person of faith. It did not require reasoning. It just required obedience. To be sure, Jesus cherished the law. He was clear he didn't want to abolish the law. Rather, he wanted to fulfill the law. And one of the ways he fulfilled the law was that he added the practice of using one's mind, reasoning in all matters of faith. Now, the commandment in Deuteronomy is to love God with one's heart, soul, and strength. Jesus added to that, love God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength. When Jesus added reasoning to the practices of faith, he simply taught that disciples have brains, and disciples are encouraged to use their brains as they practice their faith. Now, the General Conference with certainty established reasoning as a practice of faith. The conference passed unanimously the revision of the social principles. Now, the social principles are simply those advices to church members and local churches that before you act or before you speak on a certain issue, these principles are worth thinking about. They're not a doctrine to be followed or a commandment to be obeyed. These principles are requiring the disciple to be a reasoning person, using their heads. Yep. Heart, soul, mind, and strength. Now, for United Methodists, this practice of faith is not only found in the social principles, It's also found in our commitment to diversity. Agreement is simply not a practice in the United Methodist Church. The United Methodist Church does not require agreement. Rather, we are committed to a life of reconciliation, and that is living and working with those with whom we disagree. Why do we cherish diversity? Because what unites us is not our agreement in terms of our own opinions, but what unites us is the mission of God's love. One of the helpful ways that I have found that I really cherish the practice of reasoning is when I say that the United Methodist Church doesn't have a brain. Individuals have brains, and we cherish the privilege and the right of every person to use their own brains in matters of faith. This is why, first of all, in the United Methodist Church, questions are as important as answers. This is why conclusions and commitments are not based on fleeting feelings, but on thoughtful discussion and dialogue with others. This is why good preaching is what proclamation of what the preacher believes. It is not what everyone in the pew should or must believe. This is why in the United Methodist Church, Christian education is as important as Christian proclamation. This is why in the United Methodist Church, members do not pledge a doctrine or a creed. Rather, members pledge to follow Jesus. Now, those several reasons why we cherish reasoning, and we could make the list longer than that. But what makes the United Methodist Church different than other denominations? Note that I emphasize different. We're not any better, but often what makes the United Methodist Church different is our practice of reasoning. The understanding of the United Methodist Church is that actions which are determined after thoughtful dialogue, after conferring with each other. This is what historically we have called conferencing. Indeed, we have a general conference. We have a jurisdictional conference. We have an annual conference. We have a district conference. We have local church conference. What happens at these conferences? People confer. And in conferring, we use our heads before we speak and before we act. We're not over against the practice of obedience to laws, but we think reasoning must be a part of the journey of faith as disciples follow Jesus. And I want to conclude by saying that this experience of conferencing is really a safeguard, first of all, against any thought that the church can be defined, constructed, or controlled by an individual. See, conferencing is a style of governance based on the practice of reasoning. We're members one with another. Indeed, we sing, I'm the church, you're the church, we are the church together. That's what conferencing is all about. And also, conferencing defines the potential of the church um, that is controlled by the community, not by the individual. Oftentimes, faith communities can become playgrounds for control freaks, people that just simply want to control other people, and they choose the playground of the church to exercise their desire for control. But you know something? Control freaks find it difficult to operate in the United Methodist Church because of the principle of conferencing together, conferring together, based on the practice of reasoning together, not alone. You know, the beautiful hymn that we don't sing often, in number 2004 uh, in the faith we sing, listen to these words. Praise the source of faith and learning that has sparked and stoked the mind with a passion for discerning how the world has been designed. As two currents in a river fight each other under tow, till converging they deliver one coherent, steady flow. Blend, O God, our faith and learning, till they carve a single course, till they join as one, returning praise and thanks to you, their source. You see, a reasoning faith has the potential of discovering that one coherent, steady flow of love to the world. Yep, a new day, a new way for a new day for UMC includes the practice of reasoning together, cherishing diversity rather than agreement, and welcoming principles to consider before we act or speak. If a person is uncomfortable with the practice of reasoning, they will be uneasy in the United Methodist community of faith. Now, there's a lot to think about, talk about. Let me conclude with 3 questions. What are your personal experiences of the importance of a reasoned faith? What are illustrations of unreasonable faith? And what is your experience of control freaks attempting to define, construct, or control a community of faith? Thank you for being a part of our journey.